9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Hello, everybody. Oh, my goodness, my green screen looks terrible. We'll fix that in a second. Thanks, everyone, for this special episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. This time, we're going to have a special guest with us, Timmy Banfield, a voiceover artist, a actor, comedian from who hails and operates from Austin, Texas. But before that, let's just double check. I'm going to pull up a clip of the movie that really got this whole thing started, and just to double check it. So 1 second. Here's Ashlad in Search of the Golden Castle again. A brief clip.
Tristan, I'm Raoul, Prince of the Reign of Catalonia.
My dear, who are all those peasants that somehow got invited?
It's Kristen's day.
Here?
She invites who she
The
wants.
Duke of
Yeah, that's as painful as it ever was. Anyway, so with that in mind, I just reached out to Timmy. He's running a little late, so he'll be with us shortly. But I did get a brief trailer, some highlights. So I'm going to play that now, just to give you an idea of what he does, where he's coming from. It's kind of fascinating. So here we go. Here's Timmy's demo reel.
I've been wearing this for the past 20 years.
I don't see anything wrong with that. It looks good on you, and this is how I like it.
You can't tell me what to do. You're not even my real father.
A tranquil forest will make you forget all of your troubles. The very same day, a year before, Lewis made a riot and ran away from a goose farm.
Freedom!
I divert most of them girls into my own experiments. Experiments like my army of atomic monkeys.
My God, that was so 2015. Who does that anymore?
Well, what?
Have you found what you're looking for?
Not yet. I've just been browsing.
Browsing? We're in armor, in the desert. We don't just browse. What are we here for anyway? Man, I'm inspired.
I find that very entertaining. So folks, we're still waiting for Timmy, but in the meantime, maybe I'll just kind of give you a brief idea of what we've got coming in our next live stream, which is actually tomorrow night. Jim and I will be taking a look at the brand new, which is really kind of outside of our comfort zone. We're going to be taking a look at the recently released Vast of the Night, right from Amazon Studios. It was, I guess, a big hit at the Slam Dance Film Festival last year, and got picked up by Amazon Studios, and it's playing on Amazon Prime right now. It's not in the description of this video, but it is in the description for the live stream tomorrow night. But in the meantime, why don't I play you the trailer? It's I'm pretty sure I loaded it up. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm just a big screw up. I was completely unprepared for tonight. Anyway, we're going to be taking a look at that, and from there, Jim and I will take a hard, and entertaining. I can't even call what we do hard looks. I do know there's some folks though watching. Feel free to chime in while we're waiting for Timmy to make it. Feel free to chime in on what you think we should watch after the Vast of the Night. What else? What else do I have to say? How's everyone doing in their social isolation, even as we loosen up? What else do we got going on here? We got Vast of the Night, and then after that, I think we will take a look at Blood Requiem, which is a Canadian made, set on a Canadian First Nations reserve, Canadian Aboriginal reserve. Zombie movie, looks very exciting, kind of gory, but I'm just so happy that we've managed to, as a Canadian film industry, that we've got some creators that are, kind of taking these really sort of genre ideas and applying them in something that's like, yep, that can only be in Canada. And I'm kind of excited about that. But what else do we got going on here? What we're hoping to take a deep dive in. Just a sec, folks. And I'll put that over on this screen so it doesn't look like I'm hiding stuff. And we're still waiting for Timmy anyway. So, and another one that it might be interesting to take, and it is like, again, this is a genre film, but from a French film. It's called Aries, and it's a futuristic France tries to keep its people from despair and rebellion over crippling poverty by engaging them with a violent TV competition show. I'm trying to think. I think I saw one shot on actual videotape. This is like 20 plus years ago. Series 7, The Contenders, that looked, there was this the same idea, and this is even pre-Battle Royale, that idea of this sort of kind of 10 people go in, one person comes out kind of idea. But that one, because it was so low budget, it was just set in one mall. It was pretty good. Another one, now this actually got theater play, but is The Night Clerk. Ty Sheridan, Anna de Armas, you might remember as Joy from 2049, Blade Runner 2049. Helen Hunt, of course. Ty Sheridan, he's been, he's just a handsome young man doing handsome young man actor things. He was the lead in Ready Player One. They've got this one where he plays I'm not 100% sure. I believe he's autistic or on the autistic spectrum, somewhere on there, autistic disorder spectrum. But it's set in a hotel where he's the night clerk, and after a charming guest checks in, a voyeuristic hotel clerk on the autism spectrum, oh, well, there we go, on the autism spectrum, becomes a suspect in a murder that takes place during his shift. Another one that I'd really kind of interested in taking a look at. I don't know about you guys, like Netflix dumped a whole bunch of Charlie Chaplin films on it, and not just, some of the classics pre-talkies, but some of his talking films, and they're all considered classics. We might take a look at one or two of those. Love to hear what you guys think about that. These are all films that are on Netflix right now. Another one is Hostiles. It's oh, good Lord. Oh, come on, help me out here. Christian Bale. I was going to say Batman, but Christian Bale, Rosamund Pike, Wes Studi. You'll recognize, there's a number of Canadian. Local boy here. Oh, Adam Beach. Adam Beach is in it, and you know what? That may be an interesting flick to check out for our series. Let's see what else is on the streaming services. I'm really getting concerned. Our guest may not make it. I hope everything's okay. I did recently email him, say, hey, you coming? And he said he was. He's just running a little late. So, but if we look at what's going on Prime, and again, another bunch of great films there that have been going up. We've got The Vast of Night. There's another genre kind of flick, Welcome to the Punch, and although it's Mark Strong, it's that McAvoy, and I want to say, Again, bear with me, everybody. I'm just clicking this up. James McAvoy. So James McAvoy, Mark Strong, Ender Riseborough. But what we were, Jim and I were kind of fascinated by is that one of these, Mark Strong actually is holed up in, oh, looks like we have our company here. So I'm going to quit rambling on and let him give me 1 second, and we'll introduce we'll introduce Timmy, funny guy Timmy. And oh wait, he's still plugging in. We'll hang tough here for a second, and maybe what I'll do is I'm going to throw up his reel, or my edited version of his reel, one more time, and then we'll bring him online. And the first thing we're going to ask him is about his time on the Tonight Show. So, but first of all, let's play that reel one more time.
I've been wearing this for the past 20 years.
I don't see anything wrong with that. It looks good on you, and this is how I like it.
You can't tell me what to do. You're not even my real father.
A tranquil forest.
Not even his real father.
The very same day, a year before, Lewis made a riot and ran away from a goose farm.
Freedom!
I divert most of the girls into my own experiments. Experiments like my army of atomic monkeys.
My God, that was so 2015. Who does that anymore?
Well, what?
Have you found what you're looking for?
Not yet. I've just been browsing.
Browsing? We're in armor, in the desert. We don't just browse. What are we here for anyway?
Man, I'm inspired. I've been wearing this for...
Sorry about that. Hey, Timmy.
No flash. Are we brothers? Look at this.
Frightening, isn't it?
It's really close. It's really close. It's like we wore the same thing. I didn't wear a sweater, but we wore almost the same thing. There we go.
And really, this is basically a t-shirt masquerading as a sweater.
Right. And this is a t-shirt masquerading as still clean. So, I mean, it's also very close.
Almost a little, it's one of those things, you didn't have to tell us that. We're like maintaining, I'm a good Canadian. Most of my several viewers are good Canadians. We'll just...
Right. Well, that means I could basically say anything and they're like, oh, it's fine. It's totally fine.
Absolutely.
Don't worry about it.
What's entertaining is it's unfortunate Jim couldn't make it, but he is us. Like, he looks like us, except he'd be wearing a tweed cap. Otherwise,
I noticed that. I was looking over that.
Well-fedness.
I was actually hoping that there would be three of us that looked exactly the same.
It is unfortunate. He's up at the lake and he couldn't. It's, you know what? Jim's doing fine. Jim,
well, as long as he's having fun at the lake, as long as he's getting out and he's getting some fresh air for the both of us.
Yeah,
he's getting enough fresh air for the both of us. That's fine.
He's taking one for the team up in Lake Woods.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Timmy, I was telling our viewers, you actor, voiceover talent, comedian, and am I right? You were on the Today Show, like Jay Leno era?
The Tonight Show, yes. The Tonight Show with Jay Leno when he had it the second time from Conan O'Brien, which everyone's, I don't know, that's still a bitter part for some people. Some people still don't get that. But yeah, that was like, what, 2011?
That's even more. Were you that, like, that was was it part of your impression? Like, I'm trying to...
Yeah, that was part of the impression
you do quite regularly, right?
Yeah, that was really before I started. Before I took voiceover seriously. This was early in my YouTube career. I think it was before it really became a career. And so I was just doing impression videos. Now, unlike a lot of other people who do impression videos at the time, because it was like when I started doing it, there was like 5 guys who were doing impression videos on YouTube. I got into it really early, and everyone was doing like, how many impressions can I do? 101 impressions, 102 impressions. Like, they're always trying to one up each other with impressions. Oh, are you getting feedback? Yeah,
I'm just trying to. StreamYard it's once in a while. You know how it works sometimes where it's like we don't recognize that driver. Well, today we will. And then I'm like, okay, I can hear you in my headphones, but I'm like, oh, I'm hearing you in the speaker as well. I don't want to do that.
Right.
You know what? We're just going to have to roll with it, I think, to a certain degree.
Okay, I'll just turn this down a little bit so I'm not getting like that voice jammer effect. But yeah, I was doing YouTube, and my goal was to do as many impressions very, very well as I could.
Yeah.
And so I picked like I think the first 25 impressions, tried like how good can I do them? They're still garbage, but there was one. I mean, when you start out doing impressions of really anything, you're garbage every time. There's no way of just hitting the. I think Bill Burr is the only one to like hit the ground running and be
just naturally.
I mean, he was making money doing voiceover, I think, in like the first 2 months or something like that. The minute he hit a stage, people loved him, and he was killing it and doing the exact same kind of stuff that he is doing today. He's one of the few cases of someone who just went bam and just right into it. But a lot of mine were garbage. But there was one that it was surprisingly someone I hadn't really heard of, but I knew of him. It was Christopher Walken. And it was a friend of mine who had suggested, he's like, if you're going to get into impressions, there's one that you have to do, and you have to do it really well. And if you do it really well, you'll get noticed. And I was like, okay, which one is it? It was Christopher Walken. And I was like, it doesn't sound familiar. And I went and looked him up, and I was like, oh, I have seen him in everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he's very unique. And so for a couple of years, I was literally, trying to do Christopher Walken as best as I could do Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
And eventually, it got really, really good. And that's the stuff that The Tonight Show saw.
Okay.
And at the time, I used YouTube as a resume. I had my contact and my email in the gig description, kind of like the way I do now, but no one was doing that. No one was using YouTube professionally. No one was using YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
Contacts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
hey, I fixed my issue.
Hey,
okay,
we got it.
I'm just so fucking. Okay. All right, continue. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting, but you're an audio guy.
Yeah. I mean, I was having trouble setting this up in there earlier. I was trying to I'll be at the desk and I'll sit down. I'll have the lights. Nothing was working. And so I was like, bring it in here.
Son of a.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, little things.
Yeah.
But and one morning, it was like 7 a.m, which was an unspeakably unholy hour for me.
Yeah, of course.
Who would dare call me at 7 a.m? And I pick up the phone number I don't recognize, and I'm like, hello? And he's like, hi, my name's Chad, or I don't remember what the guy's name. And I'm with NBC Tonight Show. And we saw your YouTube video. We really liked it. We would like to see if you would be available to be on the Tonight Show. And I didn't believe him at first. I didn't believe him. I was like,
sure you are.
And so I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, I'm totally available. Yeah, like not really like thinking about it. It's like, yeah, I'll be there. And all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. It's like, we'll put you down, and I'll be calling back later to get your address so we can send you the airplane tickets. And I was like, okay. And after I got off the phone, I went, I looked it up.
Did you ever have a moment of, is this a Nigerian skit? Did I give out any information? What did I give out?
Yeah, I was actually very careful. I was like, I didn't give out any information. I mean, I got my phone number, but I mean, you can't get me with anything of that. And I went and looked up the number online later on, and it went right to NBC. And I started freaking out. I was like, this is real. It's real. And I was like, and I already said yes. I had work that day.
Yeah,
I couldn't be gone for I had work, and I was like, I already said yes.
I have gainful employment.
Yeah, and so and then he called me back. He got and I'm still not thinking about the job. And he called me back, and he got my information, and he sent me airplane tickets and all this kind of stuff. And then when I went to work, I had to walk up to my boss. I'm like, I won't be here. And he's like, why? Why won't you be here? And I was like, I won't be here for this date, and this date. And they were actually kind of mad. The manager that I was talking to at that time was the kind of person who didn't really like me, and they were kind of mean. And so she was like, why wouldn't you be here? And I was like, because I'm going to be on the Tonight Show. And she was like, oh,
Oh, really? It just kind of rolled with it.
We'll cover it, I guess. And that was it. They was just like, they knew what I did. They knew that, that was my goal in life. And so they were really friendly, and they were like, oh, we will absolutely cover it. Go for it.
Well, that makes me feel good, because so many of these employer stories, you're waiting for that, the D-bag shoe to drop.
Right.
And here it's like no, you bet we can support dreams. Yeah. But no, it's like
well, you got a choice to make: a paycheck, or you can go like run after your dream.
Go for the brass ring. Yeah. And apparently these folks are like, oh well, no, that's important.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. And apparently they held no grudge to Jay Leno version 2.0.
No. I mean, I didn't tell them which one I was on, and I don't even think they watched the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
But what was weird is I'd never flown before. My first time flying ever.
Well, how old are you? Like, that's like, you're still a pretty young man. Like, you must have been
9 years ago. So
20, 21.
Yeah, 2021, something like that.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I hadn't really traveled very much. Hadn't really gone many places. So I'm going up to the airport, and I arrive a little bit late. I still get on, but the reason I was late to the gate was because I didn't get the ticket. I didn't get the airplane ticket.
Really?
They were supposed to be, and I was checking the mail. They're like, no, email. We sent it in an email, and I checked my email, and it was not there. It was not there. There's nothing, and my brother and his girlfriend just drove me up to the airport anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already packed, and I'm like, well, I have to try. And so I go up there.
Something's got to work out here.
Yeah, and I go up to the desk, and I'm expecting to be sent away.
Yeah,
and I'm there with my bag, and I'm in a full like suit, because I didn't want to pack it in the bag, so I was like, I'll wear the suit, the nice suit, which I didn't end up wearing for the show. So it was a great waste of my time. And I go up to the gate, and I'm like, hi, I don't have a ticket.
I'm a
guy. Like, you need to buy a
who...
ticket? I was like, no, I just didn't get it. And they're like, what's your name? I was like, Timothy Banfield. And they're like, here you go.
At every crisis point, it's all like, it's like in a way, it's kind of this weird movie, the movie where here's our hero, here are the challenges, it all works out.
Yeah, I'm expecting,
don't you worry.
Big chase, or find out someone else has my ticket and I gotta go fight them or run after them. And
every time the stakes are supposed to rise, it's no, here you go.
Yeah, they just hand it to me. And in my head, I'm thinking, I didn't show you ID. I didn't show you a passport. I could be a terrorist.
Yeah, but that's
the
what
dumbest,
the TSA
dumpiest, shortest looking terrorist.
Yeah.
True, but I could be a terrorist.
All young, wet behind the ears.
They're like, there's fear in this guy's eyes. Come on.
I'm getting choky. His tie is incredibly tight. Is that a clip-on, young man?
But,
oh, that's the best.
So I eventually get on, and I was on late, and everyone's looking at me. Everyone knows that they're waiting because of me.
We're waiting for somebody, and oh, that's the guy.
And there's no more headroom luggage, so I have to hold my luggage in my lap the whole time. And most awkward seating. The dude behind me was watching me the whole time. The second I sat down and had my luggage in my lap, and then he went as far back as that thing it could go, and it's just like, pfft. And so I'm like this for 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
With just this, and the other person's asleep. They're not moving. So I'm just, I'm like this for 3 hours, I guess.
This is my afternoon.
Yeah, this is my experience. First time flying, absolutely sucked.
But considering the destination, you know what? It's still pretty cool. So tell us, before we kind of get into the meat of it, and I'll pull up I did. Before we get into the actual subject of it, what was that one of the triggers? Like since then, like I was saying to our viewers, you've done a lot of stuff, like a lot of video game work, actual dubbing in cartoon work. You've done some acting. I think it was only recently, if I remember correctly, that you're like, okay, I got to pull back on the stand up because this part of my career is really starting to pick up steam. But what was that a trigger point? What made you go full time? What have you been doing?
It was the Tonight Show. It was absolutely the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
There were other things to let me know that I should start taking stuff seriously. I did one of my first, I think my first real voiceover role. No, let me take it back a little bit further. Before I did the Tonight Show, the first voiceover I ever did. I don't technically count this because personally I don't think it counts, but the first time I recorded stuff into a microphone and made money doing it was doing ringtones.
Okay. Give me it. Okay, yeah, give us an example.
Okay,
throw down, man.
Yeah, do you remember the old Nokia flip phone or the Razor?
Yep.
You remember how you couldn't plug it into a computer and then just download stuff onto it? You had to text a number in order to get a special ringtone?
Yep.
I mean, that's going way back, but that's what I did. Yeah, there was a website where I posted a whole bunch of my celebrity impressions doing things like wake up alerts, you've got a text, you've got a call, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so there'd be Arnold Schwarzenegger going, "Get up, it's time to get up, you have to go to work. Come on, get up, get in the shower. Come on, brush your teeth. Lie." Or there'd be like Al Pacino go, "Whoa, you got a phone call. It might be from your ex. Better hang up." That kind of stuff. And that was the first thing I technically got paid to do for voiceover. I don't technically count it because I knew none about what I did, and it was so low quality, but it was technically the first thing.
Okay. I think I think it still is did you make money from speaking into a recording device that
wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't a lot of money.
But you were paid. You're gainfully employed.
Right.
Maybe like peasant money, paper route money, but
pittance.
Yeah, pittance.
Right.
Pittance. All right, well, then
just a few coins here and there thrown to the peasants. Yeah.
Absolutely. I begged hard for that money. I earned every pittance that was thrown at me.
I still have like the link on like an image. So I had like marketing material for it, and I have like the link printed on the bottom. Yeah. And I went to that, and the website's absolutely gone. I actually wanted to go back and like find it and like, oh, this is what I started doing, but it's gone. And I'm like, hey, you know what? That's good. It's good that it's gone. Feels good. Feels good to be free of that forever.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. You're making me think of now it's forever. It's online. It's forever. But there was that brief time earlier in the internet where it's like, no, it isn't forever. You didn't maintain that website, or that website died. Everything that was with it is gone.
Right. I mean, before, everything's now on a server. Google has servers, YouTube has servers, Facebook has servers, Twitter has servers, all this kind of stuff. So your stuff is stored there
somewhere.
Right. But there was a time when like websites you were the server.
Mm-hmm.
It was weird and complicated. But yeah, you could just delete it and it'd be gone. And that one's just gone forever. I don't even think I still have those audio files.
Yeah.
But they're trash.
And it's not, well, and you know what? You've been doing this 10 years. You've been doing this for a decade now, or even more, but your voice is better. Your technique is better. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, if you need to do it, replicate it.
Right.
Reboot
I'm
it.
sure I
We're
could
reboot your early career.
Right. I'm sure I could replicate the terribleness of it. I'm sure I could. No problem.
Yeah.
Actually, no. I've actually found that it's hard to do like if I'm trying to do an impression, I'm trying to do it poorly. It's very hard for me to do it poorly now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is a challenge. Maybe I wouldn't be able to replicate it exactly as terrible as it was.
Well, I'm more thinking that if you replicated it now, it'd just be that much better.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But you bring up an interesting point. Maybe that's where we can start moving into the meat of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But do you like? I actually kind of start to when I see actors that can act like they're bad acting, I really am kind of going, wow, that's sort of a meta level talent. Like they're delivering, they're still delivering a performance. You're like, wow, it's not, and you see, I'm thinking like The Room or others where it's like, oh, that's just painful. I'm embarrassed for you. We're all embarrassed here.
Well, there is a trick to that. I mean, that is a very tricky thing to do, to actually be able to do it wrong very well. And The Room is a perfect example of that, of where they replicate. Well, they did actually have reference to go off of. They had a whole movie of bad acting to go off of to replicate that bad acting. If they were to do it from scratch, it probably would have been a little bit harder.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you're talking about, I'm thinking the Disaster Artist to The Room. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They actually had someone holding a laptop that was playing the movie at all times, and they would stop and play, and the actors would actually go and watch it over and over and over again. That scene, this is how to do, and they'd go back and they try to replicate it as close as possible.
Really? Wow.
It is an amazing art.
Yeah.
And his portrayal of Tommy Wiseau is beautiful, is amazing. Yeah. I don't remember if it got nominated for anything, but it should have.
I don't know. Yeah. What about another example of that? I thought was 8mm, where the kids, they're making their little movie on 8mm, and all talented child actors, like really everyone. Elle Fanning, she got to play she really can act. But all those other kids, when they're being normal kids, they're acting, then they're play acting for the purpose of looking like they can't act. And I was like, holy, I couldn't pull off a half reasonable. And I can say I've had a union acting gig. And it's like, I'm not looking back at it going, wow, there's some art there.
Right.
No time. It's more they dubbed out my voice. Yeah, that makes sense. I get it.
With a Norwegian guy. All right. Well, I mean, that's their artistic choice. I mean, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah. Well, on that, like now back to the dubbing. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to play an example, just one clip I pulled out of the show that really got me on that rant. And then maybe we can, talk about, like anything you see immediately, and then maybe we can talk about because you also, not do you just dub, but you also help people edit dubs, like get dub work. So let's I'm gonna pull this up. This is from Ashlad in Search of the Golden Castle, and this was really the trigger of my rant 2 episodes ago.
Kristen, I'm Raoul, Prince of the Reign of Catalonia.
My dear, who are all those peasants that somehow got invited?
It's Kristen's day. She invites who she wants.
Okay, so the king. Yeah. Well, the problem was everyone else was like here. They're delivering their line from here. But he was like, my dear, what about, like, it's way too close. It's too much bass.
Yeah.
When you're out, like, okay, so the way I see mics in the dubbing for doing ADR is where would the microphone have been in relation to the actors on screen?
Yeah.
And the microphone can't be any closer than that.
Yeah.
So you had a nice medium shot, so the microphone probably would have been like right here, maybe a little bit higher. So like almost a foot away from him, a foot.
Kind of like how you're describing it. I'm thinking, like, if you look at the full frame on you right now, there's a bit of a medium shot going on there, So really, just out of frame ain't going to be that far from you.
No. Yeah. But it sounds like his was less than this. like way less than this, like much
where
closer.
I am, or even where you
Right.
are. Like, I mean,
Right.
yeah.
When
Well-
I've done ADR for a couple things. There was one whole film that I had to help with doing ADR. It was one that I was actually in, and it was a low budget project.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pilot project, but something happened with the audio, and there wasn't any. They had the scratch audio from the video, but they didn't have audio from the recorder. I don't know how you lose 3 or 4 days worth of audio and then not even notice that it's gone.
Yeah.
But they wanted to redo all the characters' dialogue because it was times that you couldn't hear it. And at first, they thought they were just going to have to scrap the project. And I was like, oh, but you need to do ADR? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, well, you can just come to my studio.
Yeah.
They knew that I did voiceover. They didn't know I had like a studio.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know. I mean, we want something professional. I sent them photos of everything I had, and they're like, oh, shit. Yeah, we'll come there.
Yeah.
And so they were in Houston. I was in Austin. And so half the team, half the actors, except for 2, half the actors recorded with them. They set up a little tent with blankets and stuff like that and tried to do their best over there. And then the other actors came over to my place, and, I recorded it and I sent them the files and stuff like that. And so I did some ADR. And then there were 2 actors they couldn't get that were involved in the project because they had moved. I think one moved to Atlanta, the other one moved to LA since we had shot the footage.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get them. They didn't even know how to contact them anymore. And I was like, I can do them.
Or it's like after an independent project where it's like, yeah, you don't need to call me ever again.
I don't know if the relationship was that way, but it might have been.
But you're pitching and saying, hey, I can make that happen.
I can match them. And they're like, can you? And I was like, yeah, I can match them. And so I sent them 2 audio samples of me voice matching them, and it was perfect.
Awesome.
And not to like brag or anything, but later on I even sent the video of me voice matching one of them to that guy. He had no idea it wasn't him. Had no clue that it wasn't him and that it was ADR'd. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Now that brings up it was funny. Friends of mine were talking about this dubbing thing as I was bragging about, oh, this funny guy Timmy is going to be on. You need to watch. And I do believe they are watching as we speak. But it was they were. What I was saying is like, listen, it's because we're the crowd I hang with, a number of us, we're
your gang.
We watch my gang, my peeps, some of my peeps, watch foreign film. And so after a while, you kind of slip into that, well, subtitles are always best. And then I was telling these folks, it's like, actually, you know what? You hear, you have heard good dubbing.
Right.
Never mind every animated film you've ever seen where really all the mouth is doing is, I mean, that little oversimplification, but but to ADR where that happens all the time in big money films. And
I mean, people are surprised that I think it's over half of the dialogue in a film is ADR. I mean, it's starting to get better because we're getting better with lapel work and hidden cameras that have way better clarity. But if you look at like old black and white films, there's some of the, like old Westerns, most of those were completely ADR.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, just because they
those
had to be so far away, so much wide or...
Right, or it's just wind noise, and they didn't really have like the big dead cats for that. And there's also a lot of films where there's like these rugged heroes, and that's never their voice. There's always another actor dubbing them, and I can't think of a good example, but there's a couple times when they just completely change it.
Well, a modern-ish example would be Darth Vader in Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that guy was acting, David Prowse was acting, and he kind of assumed he was going to get his voice in there. And they're like,
he was told that he was going to get his voice in there. And that's actually the worst part.
Oh, that's pain.
It was so sad. And it wasn't like they decided to change it after they were in the editing room. George Lucas decided to change it long before, and he just didn't tell him. And that's, come on, like that does
greasy, little greasy.
You should let him know. Even like he should like. I'm sure he was a good enough actor that if you told him you're still going to be, dubbed over, you're still going to be ADR'd, that he still would have given a good performance. I don't think it would have affected his performance. But George Lucas was new to directing. He was new to writing. He was new to a lot of stuff. That was technically his first film. That was like his baby.
Graffiti. American Graffiti. He'd done that. But and also there's that kind of there's still that style like of well, no, you're my employee, this is my movie,
right?
I'm not discussing these choices with you. I think like it's still the 70s, right? Like the classic era wasn't that far away. So I'm not to give George Lucas like some slack here, but yeah, you're right. Like he was a young guy, didn't like making movies, didn't like.
He didn't like directing.
Yeah.
He liked writing, he liked producing, he liked, all the aspects
the creative
of
process.
Right. He liked the creative process. He just didn't like the directing. And if you watch the behind the scenes of pretty much every single film he's ever done, it's obvious he didn't.
He's not like smiling a lot.
No. He's hardly there. There's always the assistant director is normally the primary director. Like, I don't think that changes anything. If you look at, the best of the Star Wars movies, which is, what was it? Return of the Jedi, I think.
You think
Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back.
Or Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, they considered critically and popularly acclaimed as the best.
I think a lot of that is nostalgia. But I think that entire the one that's his best, Lucas's best, was actually directed by a completely different guy.
Yeah, he only like Lawrence Kasdan, I think, directed Return of the Jedi, or did he direct? Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's that Lucas didn't like. I think like in a way it was almost like the set part. Here, I've created this thing. Go assemble go get the parts, and I will assemble
I've created
later.
The look, the feel, and I've mastered the genre. This is all the stuff that we like about it. I've written the script. Go for it, and that's basically what
execute.
He did. Right, and that was fine. But yeah, they did a lot of ADR in that film, and yeah, there's the Darth Vader thing is really sad. But I mean, it's great for James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones, had his amazing career because of that movie. Yeah.
This is CNN. He's like the brand of, or that voice is now the and I did a terrible impersonation just there, a terrible impression.
I've been trying to learn a James Earl Jones impression just because I know it's impossible for me, but it's that one I'm like constantly pursuing.
This is CNN. I can't quite now.
He has this over enunciation.
Too high in my.
He has this over enunciation with a lot of things, where his mouth over extends for some words. I'm trying to think of like.
I'm
like touching. Is our kingdom like there's an over enunciation, a lot of stuff.
No, like and then maybe an over articulation, like just in the way he moved. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Very intentional and very distinct, and it's very like nailing each syllable. Just such a good like. This is probably how people are supposed to talk. But we've just gotten like through the years, we just water down. We're just blah, blah. It's just our mouths are just boo boo goo and just blah 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 blah. He's like, this is how you're supposed to talk, very enunciated and very deliberate. And we're just like blah blah blah, just stomping over our own faces.
Except for the then all of a sudden our pronunciation, our enunciation is top tier.
Right, exactly.
That and mouth clicks.
Yeah. I mean, the mouth clicks. I mean, that's that's just because of our diet. That's just salt and cheese and so much sugar.
There's the voiceover professional in you. Coming out going, well, listen, if you cut out that, you'd have less of this. So what? So we talked about some of the great dubbing. What do you think, like, if you were to list off 5 things, Timmy, on what makes for a great dub? Or okay, yeah, all right, imagine it like this: you and I, we're making a movie, and we're from the beginning. We're going. We need as a Canadian, I don't think this is done a lot. But I don't know. But as a Canadian, it really should. If I want to make a movie that I can honestly say is Canadian, I should be thinking French, like a proper French dub, definitely subtitled, but a proper French dub if I can do it. Even like at least in Manitoba, there's Ojibwe, Ojibwe, Cree. Like, I mean, there's, if you're thinking about it. So if I was coming, you and I were talking about producing a movie, what would we be doing from the get-go? 5 things, like, to say, hey, so we set ourselves up for success for a good dub for when we release the movie.
Interesting. Live action or animated?
Live action.
We're
live action.
There is
one of the toughest things to do a good dub of, because in the end, sooner or later, the mouth and there's that,
right. Because I mean, so what makes live action dubs harder than animated dubs is because if the performance isn't all that good from the actor, then it basically makes it virtually impossible to get a good dub.
Really?
Yeah, because let's say the line delivery is too long, it's too stretched out, takes too much time, and like it's supposed to be like when you're angry, you normally should be talking a lot faster, but this person's doing that very slow, stumbling over lines, angry delivery, like he's way too dramatic about it. Then that's going to make the ADR later. If the guy is really good at ADR, really good at voice acting, it's going to make their job harder because he's like, I got to match that. That's garbage. So really good acting is, no matter what language it's in,
helps sell the.
Absolutely. It's mandatory. Second is a great translation from one language to the next.
Yes.
It absolutely, because you see a lot of times when there's like really terrible dubs, a lot of that is because even if the acting performance is good, a lot of that is because it didn't translate well.
Yeah.
There's two kinds of bad translations. One is where they basically translate it word for word what it would be from the original language, which doesn't fly, which doesn't cover. Especially if you look at like Japanese, there's things like adjectives and adverbs, or there's certain things that are just flopped to a different side of the sentence than we really have. And so it really would throw it off. There's also some words and terms that they don't use or we use, and or we don't use, that kind of stuff. And so when you're doing a good translation, you have to think more of what fits the scene. You basically almost have to write a completely new script.
You're writing the new dialogue at least if you're
specifically for that language. It has to fit the characters. It has to fit the time that the character's talking, and it has to make sense. So a really good copy for both languages is important. And that's actually, I think that's the thing that ruins so many dubs, is those two things. Fix those two things, and it's most of it. Everything after that is technical stuff. It's stuff like the distance of the mic, making sure that you're using the same mic, making sure that they're recording them in the same space and the audio quality is the same and they have the same compression and all that kind of stuff. There's so many dubs that I've seen.
The mastering issues.
Right. There's so many dubs that I've seen where there was different people recorded at different places, different microphones and different quality, and I can tell. Some people can't, but I can tell. You also see this in live action films when there'll be a line that's changed in the film, and all of a sudden the audio quality changes. It's the same actor. It's the same actor dubbing his line, but it'll like switch to like they wanted to cut the scene down and make it flow a little bit better into another. And so like go to the back shot of a dude, and you're looking at the other person and you'll hear that guy's line, and all of a sudden the audio quality changes, the line delivery, and like the proximity to the microphone changes. That happens a lot. There's like I'm trying to think of a movie that I saw that in recently. I can't think of one, but it was a Netflix movie. That one with Chris Hemsworth.
Okay.
That big action film that's like stunt guy
Oh,
porn.
the John Wick light,
Yeah, the
the Extraction.
Yeah, Extraction. There we go. There's like one line in there where someone's like their body changes or it cuts, and so they dub in a new line, and it doesn't quite fit, and it just kind of stands out to me. Most people probably wouldn't even notice it, but to me, I'm like, all right, that was ADR. That was not part of the same.
I'm thinking of, and now I can actually go to my own experience. So I was in the local film industry for a few years ago, many years ago. And I was lucky enough, I actually auditioned. Pardon?
Toronto Film Festivals kind of stuff?
No. Winnipeg was always a service, service production is what we call it in Canada. So you're doing movies of the week, stuff like that. This was it was called Christmas Rush, Breakaway in the DVD release. But Christmas Rush and Dean Cain. It was for TBS. But back in the day, Dean Cain, Erica Eleniak, which I was super jazzed about. Eric Roberts. It was like in the heyday, there was this brief time, late 90s into the mid 2000s, higher budget movies of the week for Turner Network Television, TBS, this kind of thing. So I actually had a brief role. Pardon?
Anytime you need snow, just go to Canada.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the idea, right? Yeah. So now, of course, in the local scene, it's a lot of stuff for Hallmark and Lifetime and that. But when I was, I was the undecided customer. That was my, one of those roles, eh? But I had dialogue, so I got a union permit, just like SAG-AFTRA, like ACTRA has its. You got to get so many of these things. I became an apprentice member, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't sure I was going to go anywhere with it, but I was like, wow, I actually earned a role. Right. So I do this role, and then they dubbed me out later, dubbed my audio out later. Well, I think it was, but I honestly, part of it is I'm speaking down. Of course, the boom mic's here, so they probably got shit audio using his guide track. Couldn't get a hold of me to do the ADR, but honestly, you listen to it, and I really do believe Charlie, the director, is literally you can use your voice, the mic right when they're in the edit suite, and they're just it's not key to the film. Him screaming, And so I think sometimes when I hear a bad dub in what's otherwise a good film, I think some of it's just, you know what? No, we're not fucking. That there's a budget issue. We just want to get through the scene. Just you do it. No, screw it. I'll do it. Give me that mic.
In the editing bay for 3 hours. We're tired. This is one of the last things we got to edit. We got a deadline. The producers are on our ass.
Yeah. I will never get a budget to do this properly. Yeah. Just make it happen.
You do great voicemail. Get over here.
Yeah. So there's things like that, but I'm wondering and I couldn't find a clip out of this movie, but I swear to you, there's a couple of moments where it's like, they literally it's like the rest of the audio cuts out. They hammered the rest of the audio's level so far down that all you're hearing is that, well recorded radio voice, kind of like I picked the King one because it was so radio, right? And I was
people doing they're just over the top,
yeah. Ooh, FM, and here we are on Norway FM, but where they just crank it down, and all I could think of is when they're planning for it, they're like, here we're gonna do sometimes when they're hiring the actual actors to do their own, it's like, well, you speak Spanish.
Right.
As well. So we're just going to get you to do the Spanish dub.
Right.
But then it's all part of the package. So they're getting him into the audio, into the booth.
Right.
It's like, okay, now we'll have you there, and they can mix that, the dialogue editor, the sound editors, they can mix it in with the mix. Does that jive with your understanding or experience, or because
Yeah.
that was one of the things that was bugging me. It was like, oh, this is just, they're not even mixing it. They're not like taking the old mix and kind of going, oh, we'll put this track here and still,
Right.
you know.
Well, chances are it doesn't sound like what happens a lot of times is all the audio gets like normalized,
Yeah.
but if it's not compressed and EQ'd, then you're really just getting the clearest part is really just the loudest part. So to make the rest of the stuff, the rest of the dialogue clear, without normalizing it, is to bring down the noise level and the music of everything else. So
Yeah.
that's probably what happened there.
Yeah.
They were just what probably happened is they were just isolated to that one moment, listening over it, not referencing the everything else before and after.
Yeah.
And so they weren't really mixing it in all that well.
Yeah.
This is stuff that I've heard a lot. There's a couple of projects that I was involved in, and I did a character in a video game, and then they wanted me to do the character for the trailer.
Mhm.
And it was just like a few lines, and they came to me and they were like, hey, we need this for the trailer, we need the commercial rights. And so I sent them an invoice for the commercial rights, and they were like, oh, we just wanted it for free, we didn't think you were going to charge us.
No. Oh, there's the film industry.
No.
Yeah.
No, it was a different project.
There is a fee involved. Yeah.
I mean, there's a different thing than being in the commercial and being in the thing.
Yeah.
And so they're like, fine, we'll just get someone in the office to do it. And they did, and it sucked.
Yeah.
He didn't sound like
the
me.
project didn't go anywhere.
It didn't sound like me. It didn't it didn't mix well. It wasn't the same. I was like, she just had don't even use my audio if that's going to be the case. And then just just have someone, do like the stereotypical
Redo it all.
Yeah. I mean,
in a world.
Yeah. And I was like, I mean, they didn't even try to negotiate. It was just like, oh, he's going to walk away. There's been a couple other things where I've been replaced. A lot of it's a budget or rates kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I charged too much for some projects, and they were like, when they first came to me, they had an expected budget, and then something happened, and they couldn't, do more episodes on the same kind of budget, and so they just had someone replace me, and then it just turns out terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have to get someone that's in the office or cheaper. There's been a couple times when a company in Japan,
and you're an indie performer. It's not like you're SAG-AFTRA rates, and then and I don't mean
if you can't afford me,
yeah,
don't make the project.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a minimum, and I got to explain this.
Right.
I don't mean this pejoratively, but there is a minimum quality standard to say this is acceptable, minimum acceptable quality standard. And if you need to go below that, that's the point where you kind of go, should I be doing this project at all?
Right.
And especially in that audio, that performance aspect where these are the folks who are going to sell your movie.
Right.
Or sell your podcast or whatever it is.
Right.
They're really selling your project. It's that. But also, I'm wondering, there's that cheapness. Okay, going back to this poor Ash lad. One of the reasons we picked that is I saw the first on Prime, and I saw it was Norwegian language English dub.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. It's a sweetheart little bit of family-friendly, Norwegian family-friendly nonsense.
Yeah.
But it is. It's really like the acting is...
Should our family-friendly standards change a little bit? I think we're a little too strict in America sometimes.
Well, it's funny. We
say crap.
We talked about it.
Something about that.
Yeah, Jim and I actually talked about that. It didn't, you mentioned it because there's a point where just a point where the crowd is yelling out, "Put him in a barrel of nails," and then later on they paid off that line. It's like, hey, there's the barrel of nails, and they're putting him in it. And Jim and I were talking about that, and he was like, "It's a little dark." And I'm like, "Well, I think it's a little dark for North American standards, but I suspect in Europe they're like."
Nowadays, if you compare that to the movie Hook and the Boo Box, it's nothing the same. Nothing the same. I'd rather be in that thing of nails.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Person kicking, screaming, like 1,000 scorpions in the box. That's in a kids movie.
Well,
kids.
And even better to call it the boo box. Like, this is nothing.
It's cute and fun. I go, whoa! It just escalated quickly. Just pour hot tar in there too. 1,000 spiders. That was horrifying. That freaked me out as a kid.
Now all of a sudden I'm gonna now I'm gonna have to find a clip of that. Maybe when we do a future clip show, it'll be like, hey, and this is here, Jim. This is horrifying.
Right,
and that was in a mainstream.
Right. Compare my kids' movies from the 90s to like, kids' movies in Europe. It probably matches a little closer.
Yeah. Well,
So-
and even like I'm trying to think, like when you're a kid, you're kind of cool with gore. Like it's that gory kind of
Nickelodeon, where everything was slime and gack and characters were falling apart, and there was like cartoons of like zombies and mummies where they'd constantly just fall to pieces.
Yeah.
I don't even know what shows were called, but
oozing, no, I I agree completely.
Kids show about sharks, things most people are scared of. They just go and just eat everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like Jaws may have frightened you from going into the water, but it certainly didn't stop anyone from watching what it did to people in the water. Yeah. It was like, oh no, I'm not going in there, but I'm watching.
Yeah.
I'm judging that poor dumb bastard who's in the water now.
I'd never do that.
Yeah. But come quick. This is the best part. Quick, hurry.
He eats a whole boat.
The entire
boat.
People and all.
Yeah,
everyone in it. That boat.
It's like a fire sale. Everything's gotta go. Amazing. It's the best part. Everyone died in this movie. Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I enjoyed it so much because you're hearing the performance. Like I would still. I'm not saying like I do. That's why I was saying good versus bad dubbing, because it can be done well and you're in the movie. But it's funny, like actually, as I'm thinking about it, what did I like about the first one, even though I was reading the dialogue, is I heard the performance.
Right.
Which is the thing you say first. Is the first performance good? If it's good, you've got at least one component of making a good dub. Of course, that was all they had. I'm wondering though too, because some of the things we were talking about, and does this make sense? So let's say, okay, you got this dub gig. You need that good translation, which they don't have. Like me and Jim, when we've watched foreign films now, we're like sometimes Jim, even when will look at the one film, for the SHIT, they literally had 3 different dub or subtitle words when it's like, no, apparently Norwegians say shit as well.
Oh,
why is it? Word? Yeah, they're saying it like in Norwegian, they're saying, and then shit, and it's bummer, this, and like it's 3 different, like back to what you're saying, like it's what really 3 we can hear what he's saying. Right. Why are you giving us, and not even the same, like 3 times the word shit is said by these Norwegian actors, and 3 different definitions of shit that don't include poop or anything.
Really?
Yeah, really. I swear to God, watch. It's called The Wave. If you've got Prime Video, it's on there. It may now be on Netflix as well. The sequel, The Quake. Yeah, Jim and I have watched a lot of Norwegian movies. But like what you're saying, you got a bad translation, and then I'm wondering, because like Jim was talking about casting, and I'm saying, well, is this voiceover talent getting any direction? Are they getting any, or are they literally kind of going, all right, come in, here's the script, do that? Like, because some of it, like it sometimes it's the tone is wrong. Like you can tell it's like, wait a second, that's not, did you see the movie? But I'm like, what are they being, Like when you're given a dub gig, what direction do you get, and how much does that help or hinder you as a performer, a voiceover performer?
Too much direction can hurt. Personally, I'm not a fan of being on live directed sessions with people who've never done this before, because then it just, especially if they want to record it in that moment.
Yeah.
They're like, we want to record it. We want to do it live. You've never seen the script before. I'm new to this, and I'm like,
I've never done this in my life, but
right. I would rather them to give me the script, give me the footage, and if they can give me footage with subtitles, that helps. It helps me match it up. Just kind of like, instead of having to run through it and guess, okay, this is what the character's saying this is when the character's saying this. And then I would rather just do multiple takes. Because
so they can pick and choose the take on it.
Takes to clients anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's easier on me. I used to charge for multiple takes, and now I'm just like, I can charge for multiple takes, but that's if they want like way more. But normally,
give us 5 different versions of every line.
Right. Normally, I'll do like 2 to 3. If they want, I want 10 different versions. Well, then you're paying for 10 different versions.
Yeah.
But the reason I do that is because sometimes, as an actor, you don't get it right until the third time. The average best performance is the third one.
Yeah.
Anything after that might just be different ways of doing that third one. And I'm not quite sure.
Afternoon, Jamie.
Hello. I'm not quite sure sometimes of exactly how they want the word or the line said. If it's dubbing, it's different because I can see them.
Yeah.
There are some, there was someone who came to me that wanted me to dub an entire movie by myself. And it had like 10 actors. And the majority of it is.
Well, I shouldn't say, but paid properly. Great gig. Sorry. Anyway, yeah. So they want you to dub the whole gig,
right?
The whole movie.
I was looking over it, and there was like 5 of them I couldn't do because they were like female, or the voices would have sounded too similar to something else. I was like, I can do these 5 for the whole movie, and they were like main characters, but like these other ones, I really need you to find someone else.
Yeah.
And when I can do, on my own, if I have the footage, it's easy to dub. So sometimes bad dubs might be because they didn't have the footage, or they sent them the script and the footage with no subtitles, and then no direction after that, and they were just like, whatever we get is fine.
Figure it out.
On what the language of the director is. So if it's a Norwegian film and it's a Norwegian director, do they also have an English speaking director if they're getting English?
Well, and that was kind of the take I was thinking of, is like, how often are you getting, as a pro, like kind of, here you go.
Yeah.
Figure it out. With that, like, I mean, and the more tools you're given to get into the movie, the better your performance. Even if there isn't a director, there's like good guidance.
Right. There's a lot of times that I am given stuff that I'm given no instruction on. There is actually, and then I see it later, and I'm like, man, I wish I knew that it looked like that. I wish I had reference of any kind. But I'm just like, there's so many projects that I'm like, I've asked them, can you please let me redo this?
Yeah.
Can you let me redub this, and
I can give you
whether because
something that makes sense.
Video game, especially on Steam, they release patches, and so you can put new voice in, so I can redo it. No one's ever like take me up on that offer. I'm like, please.
Wow.
I think there's been a couple times I've been able to redo it because they did like if they did like the pilot cartoon, and then later on they actually had more of a budget, and so they wanted to redo the pilot, then I'll get a chance to redo my performance.
You get another kick at the cat. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But a lot of times, if it's someone from overseas, which is most of my clients, then they can't do live directing. They can't do this. They have to give me the script, instructions, feedback through text, and as much footage and stuff as possible. And there's a lot of those that, if I'm given the right amount of information, then it turns out totally fine.
Yeah.
You know, there's one piece missing. It's all about communication. So if there's enough communication in there, on at least half of it, if you're a good actor, you can fill in the blank. You can guess the rest of it.
Yeah, and when I'm thinking direction, I mean those like what you're talking about, eh? It doesn't necessarily have to be the director's right there. Okay, so this time, this is what we're really looking for in the scene. You know, it's kind of like, I mean, but it is interesting to learn, you know, for me, that it's like sometimes you really are, it's like, here, deliver these lines.
Right.
We'll paste them into a thing that you can't see
until
it's done. And even that part, I'm like, wow, you could have wow, that's and now me, my buddy Jim, the folks that are sticking with us, you know, there's all these things that keep people in the movie. Oh, that's what I was like going with the first of that Ashlad thing. It was a charming little movie. The second one, if it wasn't that we had advertised it for the show and we're saying, hey, we're gonna be doing this, if it was just me watching it 10 minutes, I don't think I would have lasted 10 minutes. I would have been, well, I'm not watching this. And
walked away from so many movies.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, I just wouldn't have, like, there's a million other mediocre films on Prime I could be watching right now.
There was a movie that I wouldn't have watched in a million years that me and my brother watched. We should have recorded ourselves because it was so funny because of how unintentionally bad it was at times. And it's a Russian film. It was like Guardians.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Some low rent knockoff of the Avengers, right? Like, isn't it? Yeah.
There are moments of it where it's really, really good, but there's a lot of dubbing in it that is garbage.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of plot that goes nowhere, and there's a lot of like line delivery that's just like they're like, oh no, and then they'll just go back to calm like the next second. And you're like, what happened?
Oh, yeah, fries with that.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
that kind of
unintentionally.
So it was a good and bad movie. I may revisit it later on and do a live riff, but yeah, that kind of thing. And I don't remember what I was saying. I don't remember what I was going. A terrible movie that I saw.
Well, like I was saying about how a bad dub, you turn the movie off. You stop watching. And so I'm like, you know, if all you can do is a bad dub, there's like maybe don't do a dub at all. Like, I mean, the people who will watch it, they'll put up with the subtitles because that's becoming a requirement. But even then, it's like, why wouldn't you do a good dub? Like, I mean, there are, you know, the audio descriptive, you know, like it's like, oh, we really don't help blind people at all, do we? This is terrible. And
no, this could be a sci-fi. They have no idea.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on here?
Well, So my guess is, okay, so I try to envision it from their perspective. So if I did an American film and then I wanted to dub it in French, I don't know French. So how would I direct anyone? How would I know and if they gave me, you know, their dub, how would I know if it's a good performance?
Yeah.
How would I know that they nailed it? So what should be done is there are studios and there are people that are dubbing directors. Their job to direct dubbing, and there's one for like every single language normally in a studio. And their job is to find actors to dub it, and they know the language, and they often, they know multiple languages, so they can communicate with the client, and they can, they know the original language, and they know the language that it's supposed to be.
Like so many Europeans know English as the lingua franca of Europe. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So many people know English, kind of thing. And so if you don't get, so if the studio doesn't want to hire a dubbing director and a dubbing studio, they want to do it themselves, is normally when you get dubbing that doesn't quite match. It just
doesn't measure up.
Right. And it's because the director didn't know that it was a bad take. He couldn't tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if I was to watch, like when I watch actors speak another language, and they're normally English speaking actors, they don't actually know that language, I have no idea that it's trash.
Yeah.
But like people who know that language, they're listening to it, they're like, oh God, oh, why?
Yeah.
Why would you say it with that inflection?
Or their accent drops because they're delivering a very hard part.
Right.
And their accent drops because they're like, yeah, the emotion of the scene.
Right.
Or they stick with the language they don't know and it's phoned in because they're too busy concentrating on French or whatever. Okay, yeah.
Juggling. So yeah, there's a lot of elements, but dubbing studios are specially designed to handle those kind of problems, but they're not utilized as much as they should. When you get the bigger blockbuster films, they're utilized,
Yeah, they're like, there where it's like a 0.5% of the budget for all of the, and of a $250 million budget. It's like, wow, we're rich like Nazis,
Right.
Dubbing directors for everybody.
Right. But if it comes down to, it's not the director's choice, it's the producer's choice. The producer does not want to spend any more money.
Yeah.
They spend a dime.
Well, because it's coming out of that producer's bonus. It's like every nickel I can save, I get half of it because that was my deal in my deal memo. Here, let's take a brief moment to judge poor Jelly Duck here, who was late.
Jelly Duck?
Jelly Duck 100. He's a fan from Kuwait. And he's apologizing for his tardiness, and I think we should remind him. Yes,
his apology because there's an LOL. Yeah, he's not serious.
Yeah, well, there you go. Shame, Jelly Duck 100. Shame.
Shame. Bring up clips from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, I'm glad he's here, I guess, but
yeah.
If he doesn't have a quick set, then it's fine.
Oh, look, my several viewers have dropped one. No, he's still with us. Is he a fan of the show? I of course, me and Jim in our streaming career are it's much earlier. You with several thousand folks, but I think Jelly Duck, Jamie, these folks, they have you get almost a special attachment. Like Jelly Duck is his name is Ahmed. He was the first of our fans, our several fans, where he just stumbled on us as he was scrolling through something and it's like, oh, this is awesome. He's
walked in, it was just like when someone's having a house party, like an open door house party kind of thing, and he just walks in like, hey, how's it going? Doesn't know anybody there. There was a party.
Yeah, and that kind of and watching and then chiming in. It's like the I'm sure for you, there's something about those folks who chime in and give more energy to the show. And Jelly Duck has a special. But of course, this is also an excuse to remind everyone,
comment,
subscribe, notify, and I need
that bell.
Yeah, gotta ring that bell. Smash that like button, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. And
I want y'all to hit this like twice and the subscribe twice and the bell twice. Make sure you do it. You got to do that second one just to make sure it sticks.
Exactly. But you're right. Yeah, I need a comment one.
Need a comment one. Because I mean,
and I'm getting some points for being able to say it with the silent H, the Ahmed. You're very welcome, Jelly Duck, because I'm a solid host. Now, here's a question for you. Something I said in my last stream. This is kind of outside of the dubbing world, but you as a performer, as an actor and a voiceover artist. I said, you know what? It's funny. I'm making smart remarks about Jim and I being middle-aged white men. And I was saying, they run it, but they're not looking for us. But I think I was making this broad kind of hot take on, YouTube, what it has changed. Social media in general, YouTube in particular. How many people now can produce really good content and getting a ton of practice on it. I was saying 10 years, YouTube, the YouTube alumni, let's call them, to give them a name, are going to be running the show in a different way. Like maybe not all of them, but a chunk of the industry. And part of it is that you get so much, like when I got into film in the late 90s, there was a local, it's called the Winnipeg Film Group. It's where everyone who wanted to get in film went to. You took courses. There was still, video was happening, but it was still 60 millimeter. The second short film I shot was on a 60 millimeter Bolex. You need, exactly. Yes. But now all of a sudden you've got folks on a Steenbeck. Yeah.
It's like actual nuts.
Click. Tape. But does that jive with your experience? Like, I mean, the ability to, how much has that helped you as a performer in your ability just to get out of the gigs? Like, I would imagine doing an indie in Austin now is fundamentally different than it would have even been 5 years ago, never mind 15 years ago, in just the ability to get great talent to bear, just because you don't have to go to LA necessarily to get top tier talent.
No. I actively try to stop people from going to LA unless they have a sure thing waiting, because you absolutely do not need it. So I'm actually I have 3 SAG credits to my name.
Yep.
I was told that I need proof of these in order for them to count, and apparently I don't have proof of them, except for one, and that's the I think that's the Tonight Show thing, maybe. No. That one didn't count as SAG for some reason. But so I'm not a fan of the union, and there's a reason, and it's because it's too. So when the unions originally started was back, when studios would
20s and 30s. Yeah.
They would own the actors. The actors would belong to the studios. They wouldn't have any autonomy as far as like who they dated, where they lived, how they talked, their name. The studios owned everything.
The contract era. Yeah.
Exactly. And the studios could change how much they paid them at any time. They'd be like, yes, we agreed to this. We've changed it to this. You can't do anything about it. And so when they started hiring actors who had mob connections,
I agree completely, Jelly Duck. But anyway, continue. So mob connections.
Right. They had mob connections, and some of these actors who had mob connections, family members, were like, yeah, this isn't cool. And so their family would go and talk to the studio and go, hey, look, listen, we've been stiffing some of our boys, and not a fan of that.
Not all of the boys, but our boys.
You don't want this building to be all lit on fire? I suggested you tighten up.
And so they were like, hey, if you don't want this to happen to you, join us. We'll represent you. We'll make sure that you don't get screwed over. That was a beautiful thing that happened. It was a wonderful thing. It changed the industry, made things better. However, the union has become that thing now, has become the thing that they were originally designed to stop. They now decide what your name gets to be. So you can't have multiple people with the same name joining the union.
Yeah.
So if you're not willing to change your name to one of the available names that they sometimes have listed for you, then you can't join the union unless someone dies. You have to pay them every month, and it's in the thousands.
Yeah.
You look for certain kinds of projects, and for a long time they wouldn't let people who were part of the union join indie projects.
Yeah.
And now the independent projects, the online projects, are more successful, more profitable, and viewed more than
some of the mainstream big gigs. Yeah.
Right. Now they're actually starting to get into that thing, and now there's actually a segment of the union where you can actually do indie projects, and some indie projects, are union.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that they've started to take over. So the film festivals used to be for independent only, for low budget independent only. Now they've taken over the film festivals, and now all film festival projects are still union and SAG. and it drives me crazy. I'm like, I wanted to see more independent, non-big actors, non-big directors, films, and you don't see it as much anymore. They've kind of like pushed it, and so I love doing.
We love you too, Cynthia. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
I love doing YouTube cartoons and video games because as of right now, there's nothing that the union can do to those.
Yeah.
It's still an open field for me.
I think like one of the challenges going into labor history there, the one of the tough things that faces the industry and those trade unions is they really are craft unions. They're set up as hiring halls. Unlike industrial unions where you work at that employer, you're part of that union, you get a vote immediately. There's not this. Whereas I'm a union. I grew up in a left-wing home, a Canadian. This is important. This is an important distinction, Timmy. A Canadian left-wing home. So in Texas, it's like, well, he's a crazy man. But
soy boy. Where's like
why don't I have a red star here?
Like that's
yeah, exactly. I do know the words to the Internationale. But the part of the problem is, and this is the bind, as that industry continues, like let's say capital I industry, the big studio and network system, as it continues to consolidate, you got an ever smaller group competing for like a shrinking number of gigs in a craft union kind of a context where I would argue, like if I was active in that world, it'd be we gotta, let's say I was a member, I'd be like, we gotta become an industrial union. We gotta be talking about maintaining minimum standards for everyone, not controlling access in, because that's I think what's frustrating to everyone is like, and I think about, which is totally antithetical to let's say a more democratic labor movement mindset, which was what I was raised in, was you did a stream or a show on one of your heroes, won't name any names, but the general thrust of it was, here's this pro, he's already in saying, wow, don't take low paid work, take unpaid work. And it's like, for me, especially as you think about a lot of people, you look at the class, and I'm talking about middle versus upper class versus working class.
Right.
There is a reason why everyone who gets in, not everyone, but so many people who get in come from some means. It's not a lot of poor people unless they won the lottery at 18. Everyone else, it's like they go to LA because they got parents who can subsidize them for a few years. They came from those top tier film schools because their parents could afford to put them in. Like there is means. And so of course it becomes a kind of thing where I know it's called a union, but is it really? Because it seems to be more about controlling the labor supply to ensure that one small group gets all. And I think because a lot of on the flip side, at least somebody's there doing something about workplace safety, right? Like, especially as we're getting—
That's the part of the union that I love.
And I think, but going back to what you're saying, I can totally see any new person, and like you said, unless you've got money behind you, unless you're already basically, coming from a capitalist family with dough, stay home, keep working locally, do the YouTube stuff. You're going to become a good actor. Practice and feedback is going to happen in your backyard.
Right. I strongly, encourage people not to go to LA or New York.
Well, like you said, unless they have a sure thing. Yeah.
Right. Unless there's like a sure thing. Yeah. There's so many people that encourage me to go to LA. They're like, oh, we can put you in dubbing studios and stuff like that. And I'm like, do you have work for me?
Not on a roster of exploited, not on a roster of exploited labor who I get called in once every 3 months. You know,
I mean, moving to Austin was already a headache.
A big,
and if it wasn't for family members that were willing.
Where did you grow up? Like, where did you?
Oh God. Okay. So when I was very, very little, it was Rusk, Texas, which is it's a blip on the map.
Did you
It's
say
hardly
rust
anything.
as in
Rust.
R-U-S-T? Rusk.
Rusk
Okay.
with a K
All
at
right.
the end. Rusk.
Okay.
It's like
Rusk.
almost rust, but it's a K. Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
a K. Yeah.
It's nobody knows where it is. It's small.
You
very
gotta
small
Google
population.
it.
I drive through there and it hasn't changed. Start out there, and then when I was like before teenage years, moved to 6 places in California. And it was places like Oakhurst, Atwater, Mariposa, and I can't remember the other 3. And some of those places we didn't live more than 6 months. My dad was a forester, and so we moved around a lot. And then we moved back to that same house in Rusk. On my teenage years, we lived in Gonzales, Louisiana. And then after that, after living in Gonzales, Louisiana, my dad lost his job, and then we moved to Lufkin, Texas, where my dad knew somebody who had work.
This is the home of the birthplace, right near the sprawling metropolis of Tyler, of Rusk County, Texas.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, continued. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure to give everyone context.
I've driven to so many of those places. It was like I would have quite a few of those red dots just from doing. Yeah, and then after Lufkin, I moved out of Lufkin, away from my family, to Austin to pursue. So across this entire lower areas where we've driven.
Yeah.
So spent a lot of years in a lot of different places, and we watched a lot of television and old films. Didn't have we watched a lot of old films. We didn't have television that much, and so I didn't really develop a regional accent. So I don't sound like I'm from Texas, and I don't sound like I'm from California.
But you could if you wanted. You know, you heard it enough in the real world. Like you're not doing that fake thing. Yeah.
Way more in one direction on their accent.
Yeah.
But because of that, I have more of a just a general North American accent.
Yeah.
Normally what I get a lot of work on. And that's because of that whole moving and not really spending all that much time in schools.
Being exposed to a lot of
local television and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I lived.
Oh, there we go. Listen, I do, you know what? It's something I will do this for the next interview. The next time you're on, we'll discuss this beforehand. But now I'm like, I feel like I was like, I'm going to put you on the spot. We do, one of my fans is asking for a little Joe Pesci, if that's a thing you do. So now I felt obligated to put it up on the screen, but you are not obligated to do it.
Pesci, of course I do Joe Pesci. I want to do a freaking Pesci. What the heck's wrong? I a fucking clown.
That I have to be careful. I'm like, don't swear. I know he swears. I know it's in the character. Don't swear. You're around.
Be cool.
And of course, there's Christopher Walken is one of my favorites. I love the low end Christopher Walken. Other people do Chris. They go high. They go crazy. I don't do that. I take it slow. More like the watch scene. That's how I do Christopher Walken.
Yes. What?
It was like 4 years before I got good. So I dedicated 4 solid years to doing Christopher Walken. Now, some impressions that come easy. Like Don Knotts was really easy. SpongeBob is easy, but then there's ones like Christopher Walken that I gotta work at.
What drew you to that? Was it just something as a kid you're kind of good at it and you get enough of that feedback from friends that you're like
really being good at it? We watched a lot of the same movies over and over and over again. Like I said, we moved around when I was a kid, and we just had a big collection of movies, DVDs, and VHS, and I just watched a lot of it over and over and over again because it was the only thing that we could do. And when you're a kid like I am, so when I was 6. I was tested, and I had 136 IQ, and that doesn't mean that I'm
smart boy.
Right. That doesn't really mean that I'm smarter, but what that meant was the area that I aced in was being able to identify differences in things and memory.
Okay. Yeah.
So if I'd watched a movie so many times, I could memorize it. And there was a couple movies when I was younger that I could actually act out the entire thing, every line, every character, and do all the voices. Which makes me look like a freak as a 6-year-old kid, but that ended up being good at impressions. And when me and my 2 brothers would play action figures, we'd try to give them all voices, that kind of thing. And so that slowly but surely,
you're giving them voices because you've now when you were doing that, like, again, you're referring to yourself as a freak on that, but all I can think of is like, that's a parent's favorite party trick. No, Timmy, come here. Come on, do that thing you do. Look at my boy here. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but damn, the kid's good, eh?
Yeah, my parents are actually proud of me. They have different ways of showing it. My mother's more of the if I need criticism, don't go to her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, don't go to her for criticism. Go to her for encouragement. Go to dad for criticism. Like there's so many times when I was doing stage plays, I would get off, everyone else would be like, oh, this was great. This made us laugh. This was funny, all this kind of stuff. And my dad would point out the one little thing that, bugged him, like my nose was twitching.
What? Say that again?
My nose was twitching. This is an action. I did Oklahoma, and I hate that play now because I did it so many times, and I hate the song. It's garbage. But I have allergies and actual hay bales on the stage. And I took lots of medicine to make sure that my nose wasn't running. But every now and then, my nose would twitch just because it's like itching kind of thing. And I didn't want to scratch it or anything like that. And that would happen periodically. And that's the one thing that my dad pointed out when I got off stage. He didn't say anything positive. It was just that one little thing. And it drove me crazy for years.
Yeah.
Until I
showing his love by pointing out the things you can address for next time. I have some like a good director. I have some notes.
Right. Exactly. And so I just learned that that's their unique position in relationship to my career.
Yeah.
I send them all kinds of stuff that I've done, or I used to. I send them all kinds of stuff that I've done, wondering what their thoughts are. And, my dad would have thoughts. He just wouldn't tell me. He would tell my mom. He would never tell me.
And eventually it'd get to you.
Right. Eventually it'd get to me, but I'd have to go ask her. She wouldn't actively come and tell me. I have to go call her. Hey, that thing that I sent you. She's like, oh yeah. That kind of stuff. And so
we have many thoughts on it. Could you called me?
We just weren't going to tell you. We just, hope that we would all die and then no one would have to tell each other.
Well, this is kind of crazy, Timmy. I'm looking at it. We were almost on the 2-hour mark. Now, some of us, me just ad-libbing at the beginning, but it's become part of this, when we're talking about movies, that is just, there's just more to go on. So I would love it if we could maybe bring you back in sometime, maybe even pick a movie that you can bring an extra layer to, and the three of us riff on a film after we've watched it. But this has been awesome. Way more. Like I was just, if I could get 10, 15 minutes of his time, just, kind of break it down. But I've been having a wonderful time. So, you know what?
The problem with me is it's hard to get me, but when, just because I have so many things going on. But when
you're singing for your supper every day, man. Yeah, right. No, I get it.
I got a bag with a cup. But when you do get me, I block out the whole day.
Yeah.
I try to make sure there's nothing else going on the whole day or nothing that's urgent. There's something that I could do later tonight, but it's not that important. Just because I love conversation. I love having conversation, and and I personally don't care how long it goes on. So this doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Well, no, and I really appreciate it. And then we'll definitely have to schedule another time. I actually, like a jerk, did schedule something for after. It's that I still have to get to. I was like, listen, I was a big deal in Texas talking to me. Oh, look at this.
Dentist appointment.
Yeah. Oh, Comments are coming in.
Thank you.
Great and entertaining storyteller. I really appreciate it, Timmy. And like, if you were to, kind of wrap up, like, what would be that message to people? Like, again, like, because I find it fascinating that there's at times you get this weird kind of these false dichotomies, eh? Oh, it was this bad, it was that bad. Like another one of my favorites, and maybe in a later thing you can join us after I give a rant about bad scripts. I'm not saying that there aren't bad scripts, man. I'm more like I hate it when it's such a lazy bit of reviewing. Wow, there was a problem in the script. And I'm like, how the do you know? There's so many things from script to screen that happens.
There are
there
are some movies that I've actually seen like that was the script.
But I don't think anywhere near as much as like it is. It's like saying, oh, I looked at the blueprint. It was the blueprint. This is why this building's shit. Actually, I think you could probably do better with that one. But
I think that was actually a pretty good analogy.
Yeah. but it was like it's sometimes like but what would you say as far as like, because there's that false dichotomy of, oh, subtitles are always better. It has its place. And I would say, well, if you can't do a proper dub, then yeah, the subtitle's going to be better. But it's almost like a bad comparison. Something bad is worse than something good. Well, wow. So what would you say about dubbing that people don't necessarily kind of know if they're not in the biz? Like, what would you want people to walk away with?
Dubbing should not be judged all together. You should judge each dub individually. It's like judging each film. You don't watch one terrible film and then say all films are terrible. So just because one bad thing a dub doesn't mean all bad, all dub is bad. Yeah. And when it comes to a lot of the whole dub versus subs, there are some films that are way better with subs, and there's some films that are way better with dubs. I've watched a couple films and just chose not to watch it with the subs. The dubs, and just watched it as it was, and I was able to follow it along. And those are the kind of films where watching it with the dubs would be totally fine. But if it's a film that's kind of confusing and the lines are the subtitles are going back too fast, then you'll want to watch it with the dub. So everything has its own, pros and cons. I would say
even its place.
Right, everything has its place. So if you're not sure, I would say give both a try.
Okay.
So you have the movie and you have the option to review both. And if you get to a certain point in the movie and you enjoy it more one way or the other, then watch it that way. Some have really good like Jackie Chan films. I would never watch a Jackie Chan film with subtitles. I'm totally fine with the dubs. They're fun.
That's a great example. No, they're fun. It's part of the comedy.
Yeah, exactly. They add to it, and Jackie Chan eventually started doing his own dubbing at one. So before it was like some guy who's doing all of his dubbing, and then he took over it. And but yeah, if you watch it with the dubs, because a lot of his movies aren't supposed to be taken seriously, they're not dramatic films, they're not deep plots, then it doesn't take away from it. And you don't want to be watching the bottom of the screen, watching yellow letters go by when there's action going on.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And so much, especially a Jackie Chan film, and he really is an unsung, well, maybe not unsung, but he really is a master of action and that visual storytelling. And not just in the stunt set pieces. Like it's very, and yeah, no, I never thought of it that way. You're absolutely right. Yeah, there is a movie where it's like, no, give me the dub because I don't want my eyes. I want to be able to. I'm going to get enough of the meaning from there. Right. The bad, if there's any bad dub or kind of a stumble or something, I'm not going to care because what's on the screen is what I want to watch. Yeah, no, I agree completely.
Action movies like that, action movies, you don't want to watch them with the subtitles. You want to watch them with the dubs, and because they're normally not seriously. There's very few, dub to sub or foreign films that are like heavy on the action that are really, really serious. Maybe the older samurai films that have like a deeper, more darker plot, and those ones when it's like the slower pace, it's black and white samurai
Kurosawa,
beautiful. Yeah. Watch those with the subs.
Yeah,
because they're slower paced. The fighting is a little bit more deliberate, and they don't talk while they're fighting.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. And those are ones where you want to watch it as the director more or less originally intended. And the translation is a little bit more accurate than the dub would be. Because again, the dub is trying to match the framing of the mouth movement. So sometimes you cut some stuff off. So that's an example of basically the exact same genre, foreign action films where you would prefer one over the other.
Yeah, no, that's a great distinction you're drawing. I'm so glad I asked the question. Listen, Timmy, I'm gonna sign off on everyone else, but if you stay online, I'd really appreciate it. Just stick around for a bit. I'm gonna plug my next show, and then maybe we can have a little wrap up chat afterwards. Again, everyone. Thank you all so very much for attending, for coming to hear what Timmy has to say. Timmy, where would everyone? And I'll put links. I think I have a lot of the links already in the video description. But where should people? Give me the top to the. Give me the highlight of where they should find you on the internet.
On the internet,
yeah.
Basically, if you Google Funny Guy Timmy, you'll find me. Because every single website, pretty much every single website, except for my voiceover website, I always use Funny Guy Timmy. So if it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and even
all one word, right? Just like you have it on your thing.
Yeah, just all one word, Funny Guy Timmy. The best place to find me is YouTube. It's the most active place, is where I am pretty much, every single day. Everyone's
That's where I found you. Yeah.
I'm hardly on Twitter. I'm rarely on Facebook. But if you find the YouTube, then that's the best place.
Yeah. And it is you've got a nice mix from advice to voiceover artists to just having a couple of laughs, talking about great impressions, and even some of your stuff on bad voiceover is quite entertaining. Sometimes you got to dig into the junk, so you go, oh, that was good because it wasn't that awful crap. Oh, look at Jelly Duck actually subscribes to your gaming channel.
Awesome.
And yes, Jelly Duck, we are amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna Timmy, thanks for sticking around. Everyone, first of all, let's I can't help myself. I gotta ask a third time. Smash that like button. Subscribe to my channel and then Timmy's. And don't forget to hit the bell. Otherwise, how will you know the next time I'm going to share my wisdom? All right. What? Say that again?
YouTube will not tell you. If you do not hit that bell, they do not care.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Okay, my friend and everyone else. The next show is actually tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, Winnipeg time, and we are looking at. I should have. There we go. There we go. We're looking at Jim and I are going to be overanalyzing The Vast of Night, which again, we're out of our comfort zone. We're actually going to see that. We're actually going to see the something that came out in the last couple of weeks, which is kind of blows my mind. All right, everybody. Goodbye. I'm ending the broadcast, but Timmy, you stick around. Oh, we got one more comment. Have a great day, everyone. Absolutely. Great way to end it. All right. Okay. Bye, everybody. Timmy, don't. I'm not saying bye to you.